I'd now like to introduce the other next senator from the great state of Wyoming, Chris Rothfuss.
Thank you very much. You know, it's certainly an honor to be here at a dinner, the Jefferson-Jackson Elvis dinner that we have. I've always been a fan of Elvis and Jackson, but honestly, Thomas Jefferson was truly amazing. Don't you wish we had him today? Honestly, don't you wish we had a few Thomas Jeffersons? If you sit back and think about, compare and contrast, Thomas Jefferson to George W. Bush, and then think to yourself, they do the same job. It's almost offensive. It really is. It's amazing how much of a difference. Thomas Jefferson was truly great. He was a founder of our country. He helped frame the Constitution. And it's a wonderful thing that we do to honor him by having this dinner and to remember what he stood for. And you know, sometimes I think that maybe the reason that a lot of the people in the Republican Party have opposed advanced biotechnology research is because they're afraid of the day when we're able to clone Thomas Jefferson. And they've got like a whole line of Richard Nixon just waiting to be the next president, but Jefferson keeps coming up and beating him over and over again. They'll be out of a job. So, you know, I'm not sure if that's true or not. That's something to think about. We've arrived in a situation now when we're looking at the national campaign for presidency. This is an incredibly important presidency. We need to win. Senator Obama needs to win. A lot of good reasons from Governor Dave earlier, but one that you can remind people of. And this should be something that's important to them regardless of their party background, hopefully. 2 Supreme Court justices are coming to the end of their career. And in the next 4 years, it's very likely that we will want to replace 2 Supreme Court justices, 2 of the liberal justices on the court. We have a balanced, effectively, court right now. We've got 4-4-1. Senator Kenney tends to be a swing vote. If Senator McCain is elected president and we have a turnover of 2 justices, we will have a 6-2 court with 1 swing vote. And you should all be very frightened of that. We heard about rights abuses earlier. We heard about the fact that the government has kind of been running rampant over the last 8 years. Those are constitutional abuses, and right now, I'm confident if they were challenged at the Supreme Court, if they were challenged today, the Supreme Court would knock it down and would say that this administration has overstepped their bounds as they've been doing time and again for the last few years. Time and again, they've struck down the Bush administration, saying that you've been acting unconstitutionally. That's this court. If that court changes to a 6-2 court with 1 swing vote, all of these injustices that we have seen transpiring over the last almost 8 years will be upheld constitutional, and we should worry about that world. So tell your friends that even if they traditionally like to vote Republican, that it is in their long-term interest, and their children's interest, and their family's interest to have a balanced court so that we have good decisions in the judicial branch rather than bad decisions that we would see from the future. And I worry about that. And that's the reason that I think that we should all work extra hard. You know, take a few extra hours to call people and tell people that they need to vote for Senator Obama in this election. I see that as one of the many issues that this election is not supposed to be about, since, as we've heard, this presidential election is not going to be about issues. That was what Senator McCain said. It's not going to be about issues. Well, he tried that. And I can imagine how that went. They were at the campaign headquarters. They were discussing issues. And they were realizing that pretty much the entire American people disagreed with them on pretty much all of their issues. So they said, all right, well, this time around, we need to make sure that it's not about issues. So the next speech, Senator McCain walks out there and tries to tell everyone, this election is not going to be about issues. And then nobody listened to him regrettably, so he walked back to the campaign headquarters and said, well, what do we do now? Nobody listened to me. They still want to talk about issues. And so they sat around for a little while and they said, well, I've got an idea for a vice presidential candidate for you. And so here we are, and nobody's talked about issues in weeks. So that was regrettably quite effective. But hopefully over the next couple of months, we can get back to issues because believe me, we have a lot of them. We have a lot of them that we need to be talking about and that nobody is talking about and nobody is confronting. Because if you think about the issues that face us today, they are the same issues that faced us 10 years ago, but they're all worse. And now we've got a war on terror, and we've got problems with a national deficit and a budget that we just can't stomach. So it's worse now, and we need to bring the attention back to the issues. And this is something clearly that I'm running against Senator Enzi. Senator Enzi's not talking about the issues either, and he's not going to try to talk about the issues, because if you look at the issues that he has to support, and you look at his record over the last 8 years, 9 years, 10 years, you know, this is somebody who's powerful on the health committee, the health, education, labor, and pensions. Anybody here like their health care particularly well? Like the health care system? Not a lot. Education? Not so much? No? Right. For 2 years, from 2005 to 2007, he was effectively the most powerful man in the country on health care, education, labor, and pensions. If you don't like any of those policies where we're at right now, then he's the person that you should be pointing to. He's the person that you should be asking for an answer, and he's the person that we really need to get out of office. And what we need to be sending to Washington, D.C. as the state of Wyoming, we need to be sending people to Washington that can represent us on the issues that truly matter, I think, to the people of Wyoming and truly reflect the people of Wyoming, which is energy. You look at our energy policy now, invade and occupy countries. It's a comprehensive policy, it's global, it's certainly we've invested a lot into it, but I'm not convinced that it's going to really have the payout in the end and the long-term sustainable energy independence that we all aspire for. Right? We're not going to get there. You know, it's shoot here, shoot there, or shoot now policy as opposed to drill here, drill now. It wasn't quite as effective as I think we had. And that policy has led us to a situation where 4,155 Americans have been lost to secure Iraq in some way, when effectively all we've really done is occupy the country. And yes, it is an occupation. We can call it whatever we want, but it's an occupation at this point. And we hear how the surge works. It's been successful. Well, obviously there is a number of troops that you can put into a country and stop people from shooting each other. That number appears to be, for Iraq, 150,000. What do we do now? 150,000 people have been put in there to basically end sectarian violence between Sunnis and Shias that have been fighting for much longer than our country has existed. And 150,000 troops are on the line each and every day. And even though we say violence has scaled back, it's still 15 American lives per month that we're trading for something. I don't know what we're trading it for. I don't know why. I don't know why we need to continue to be there to succeed when success is in the hands of the Iraqi people. They're the only ones who can move forward and succeed. They're the only ones who can choose democracy or choose failure from here on out. I think we should support them. I really do. I think we owe it to them to provide whatever logistical support, government management, constitutional support, anything we can to them. But without losing 15 American lives each and every month for a cause that really was ill-advised in the beginning. So we need to bring our troops safely home. And then when we get them home, we need to change our energy policy from invasion to something a little more forward-looking, something a little more comprehensive. something that actually uses all of the resources we have instead of just looking at pet projects and whatever is the interest of the day for one particular senator or congressperson back in Washington, D.C. And we need real leadership in Washington, D.C. to do that. You see, we have a lot of incredible energy assets and resources, not just in the state of Wyoming, which we certainly do, but nationwide. We have a tremendous amount of coal, far, far, far more coal than we have oil or natural gas. And we have a lot of natural gas. But we have these resources, and we need to work to blend these resources into the future of our energy policy. And that's looking to the near future. Obviously, we're not going to be able to get off of hydrocarbons in the near term. But in the long term, we still need an energy policy. We need something that's forward-looking. So when we can move away from hydrocarbons, what are we going to do next? We need to have our wind power developed. We need to have nuclear power. We need to have geothermal. We need to have hydroelectric power. We need to blend all of our resources into a comprehensive strategy. Regrettably, we don't have the leadership to do that. That's the only thing we lack. We certainly have the technology, we have the know-how, we have the human power, we have everything we need except for the political will because of the infighting in Washington, D.C. It's a failure of leadership. So we need to provide that leadership. We need to send people to Washington, D.C. that are willing to tackle this very difficult problem. I mean, this problem is essential and is key to the other problems that we've been having. If you look at our economy, just imagine how much better our economy would be if instead of sending almost $700 billion a year overseas to countries that we don't particularly like, we took that $700 billion and dumped it directly into our economy. That's a lot of jobs. That's a lot of additional funds that can help to drive our economy and give us a better future, give us a better tomorrow. And that's what we could do if we actually have this comprehensive energy policy. But what is a comprehensive energy policy? We use this term and we talk about sustainable energy independence. And that's different from what we hear a lot. Independence means we don't have any foreign oil. We're not dependent on it at all. We hear people who want to talk about reduction. I don't want reduction. We have the resources and technology and human power to get completely off of foreign oil and to be an exporter of power. And Nick mentioned this earlier, that we need to take the global leadership on energy policy, and we can look at this as our next generation of where we're going to be leaders of the world. If you think back to when Senator Kennedy was announcing the Apollo program, he said that we're not going to do it because it's easy, but because it's hard. And it was very inspirational, it was very motivational, and that's the kind of thing we need now. We need to do this because it's hard. But in conquering something difficult, we can move back to the forefront of the international community, we can regain our leadership, and we can make our economy vital again, as it hasn't been in the last 8 years. And we need to do that. And as far as some details on how we can move along that path, I think one thing we need to do, the first thing we need to do is recognize that we have to have a stewardship approach to everything we do for the future, where one of the central points to an energy program that we want to advance would be a cap-and-trade strategy, so that we actually have something that combats carbon dioxide emissions, so that we have a program in place that provides incentives for carbon capture and sequestration and all of the policies that will help us to actually reduce the CO2 emissions instead of exacerbate them. But obviously, at the same time, we need to use hydrocarbons and we need to advance these for this next generation. So we need funding and capital in place. We need an established marketplace that allows these projects to move forward. And I have a suggestion. I have a suggestion that I think will really move forward energy policy nationwide, and that is energy bonds. It's a simple concept. Everybody in this room could buy energy bonds. You get a 5% yield, or something along those lines. The federal government, or the entity that administers it, loans it out at 5.25% for energy development. It's relatively simple. It doesn't cost the federal government a great deal of money, but I would think that at those price rates, you could actually raise billions and billions and billions of dollars without it being a burden on the taxpayer but with it providing economic incentive and motivation for us to develop the energy technology that makes us independent from foreign oil. And at the same time, we need a little bit of leadership and a little bit of guidance. Now, where are we going to get that from? Regrettably, I don't see the Senate, even if Nick and I end up there, as really being the true experts on energy policy. We have this whole Department of Energy that turns out they've got some people there that know something about energy. I don't think we utilize them as much as we probably could. But if we had a board of advisors that were basically just administering the grants or the loans, I should say loans, for the money that are coming in through the bonds, they can help to guide this roadmap, this energy policy for the next 50 years. You know, it's been done before. I don't know how many people are familiar with the ITRS, which is the International Technology Roadmap for Semiconductors. This organization has existed for quite some time, and I think one thing we can all probably appreciate is the fact that our computers run very well. I hope we can all appreciate that. They're fast. We've got great hard drives, great everything, great processors. They've been organized for a long time, and it's that type of organization, that type of forward-looking thought that we need for a comprehensive energy strategy. They can get us off of foreign oil. They can free us up in terms of our foreign policy so that as we're making our foreign policy decisions, we don't have to base it on energy policy. And that is, I think, what we need to do. And if you send me to Washington, D.C., I will make Wyoming a leader in energy policy, not just in energy production. Thank you.